I hadn't planned to stay. The box in my hands was light, barely more than a book and some papers, but it felt heavier the closer I got to her porch. The street was silent except for the sea wind rushing between the houses, carrying salt and the faint smell of someone's dinner cooling on a counter. I was just a courier, nothing more. At least, that's what I told myself as I rang her bell. The door opened with a soft creak, and there she was. Ms. Calder. Her name alone had a quiet weight. She was mid-40s, but the first thing you noticed wasn't her age, it was the steadiness of her eyes, a green-gray that made you feel like she could see through excuses. Her hair was tied back loosely, strands falling around her face as if she'd been doing something alone and unhurried. She smiled a polite, distracted smile, the kind people use when they don't expect you to stay. "You're late," she said, though not sharply, more like she'd been waiting without wanting to admit it. "Traffic," I murmured, handing her the box. My voice came out too soft. I'd rehearsed a normal tone on the walk up. She took the package but didn't step back. "It's heavier than it looks." "Is it?" I asked, though I knew it wasn't. Her fingers brushed mine as she shifted the box, just enough to jolt me. I thought she might close the door then, and I could walk away, but instead she tilted her head, glancing past me at the empty street. "You walked?" I nodded. "It's not far. You'll freeze out there," she said. "Wait a minute." She left the door half open and disappeared inside. The warm smell of coffee drifted out. A radio hummed low somewhere in the back, an old jazz standard, off-station enough to sound private. I could have left. I didn't. My breath clouded in the air as I lingered on the porch. The house light made a pale circle on the steps. The rest of the street was a dark watercolor. When she returned, she was holding a mug. "Here," she said, offering it. "At least warm your hands before you go." Her kindness unsettled me. I cupped the mug, feeling heat seep into my palms. "Thanks," I said. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, studying me in a way that wasn't unfriendly but felt heavier than the box had. "You're new. I haven't seen you before." I told her about the temp job at the gallery, about school, about how the delivery company had called me last minute. My words came too quickly. She asked small questions that slowed me down, nodding as if she already knew the answers. At some point she laughed, softly, not at me but at something in my story, and I realized we'd been talking longer than the cooling coffee justified. The porch light flickered, the jazz tune drifted out, and her eyes seemed less steady now, more curious. She wasn't leaning back anymore. She was closer, the edge of her sweater brushing the door. "I should let you go," she said finally, but her voice caught a little. "I should go," I echoed, though I didn't move. A pause opened between us, wide and quiet. She looked at me as if weighing a risk, then opened the door a little wider, not an invitation yet, more like a question. And that's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. A new message lit the screen, just one line that froze me before I could even read her expression. The message on my phone was from my roommate: "Don't forget to lock up. She's way out of your league." I shoved it back into my pocket before she could notice. Inside, the radio had shifted to a quieter song, something with a slow piano. She stepped back just enough to let me cross the threshold. "You can set the mug there," she said, nodding to a side table piled with old mail and a pair of reading glasses. Her house didn't look like anyone else's on the street. Paintings leaned against the walls, half-finished, the colors muted and ocean-heavy. An open notebook sat on the arm of the sofa, the handwriting small and careful. It smelled faintly of turpentine and coffee. "I'm sorry," she said after a moment, sliding her hands into the pockets of her cardigan. "I don't usually keep strangers in. I guess it's been a quiet week." "I don't mind," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. I didn't want her to hear the thrum under it. She gave a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Divorce papers came through last month. I'm still learning how to fill the evenings. I swallowed. I didn't know. Why would you? She picked up her mug, staring into it. My daughter usually drops by, but she's out of the country for a while. Her voice softened. You're about her age, actually. I felt the weight of that land between us. The way she said it was gentle but also a warning, like a hand on a hot stove. I nodded, staring at the mug in my hands. I'm 24. I do some part-time shifts at the gallery while I finish my degree. Art history. That explains why you kept looking at the canvases. Her tone was lighter now, but she didn't look away from me. You think too much about what things mean. We both laughed softly at that, and the sound startled me. The silence that followed was different, warmer, but also charged. I caught myself glancing at the door, imagining how it would look if someone walked in right now. The age gap was obvious. The fact that I'd seen her daughter's graduation photo on the mantel made it worse. I shouldn't be here. I should go. I said again, though my body stayed rooted. Of course. She set her mug down, but her fingers lingered on the rim. I talk too much. No, I said quickly. I like hearing you. That hung between us. She looked at me, really looked, and for a second I thought she might laugh it off. Instead, she reached past me to take the empty mug, and her hand brushed mine. This time it wasn't an accident. She didn't pull back right away. Her sweater sleeves slid against my wrist, soft and warm. Neither of us spoke. The piano song on the radio faded out, leaving just the sound of the sea wind pressing against the windows. The sound of the sea pressed harder against the windows, a steady hiss that filled the pause between us. Her fingers were still on mine, light but deliberate. I should have stepped back. Instead, I held still, feeling the softness of her sleeve against my skin. Then her phone buzzed on the counter, sharp, breaking the moment. She flinched and pulled her hand back. A name flashed across the screen before she flipped it over. Daniel, work. I need to. She began, but didn't finish. She stood there, one hand on the counter, breathing shallow. It's okay, I said quickly, though my voice cracked. I should go. She shook her head. No. Just give me a second. She crossed to the kitchen, murmured into the phone, then hung up after a few clipped sentences. When she came back, her expression had shifted, more guarded, like a mask she'd remembered to put on. You should be careful, she said quietly. People talk in this town. I laughed, but it came out wrong. About me dropping off a package? Her eyes flicked to the photo of her daughter on the mantel, then back to me. About anything else. A gust rattled the porch light outside. The radio had gone to static. I thought of my roommate's text, of the gallery owner who'd given me this delivery because she liked older clients handled politely. I thought of the photo of her daughter again, and my stomach turned. I'm sorry, I said. I don't want to make things, you haven't. She cut in, but softer than before. I'm the one who. She stopped herself, pressing a palm to her forehead. We both moved at the same time, me to hand back the mug I'd been clutching, her to take it. Our hands met in the middle, too close, and for an instant our faces were closer too. She looked up, eyes flicking to my mouth, then away. I heard myself exhale, a sound too loud in the quiet. Don't, she whispered. I didn't know if she meant don't leave or don't get closer. The front door swung open before either of us moved. Cold air flooded the room. Mom? A woman's voice, bright, surprised. Footsteps on the entryway tile. My heart shot into my throat. Her daughter stood there, dragging a suitcase behind her. She was younger than me by a year or two but had her mother's eyes. Her gaze flicked from me to her mother, then to the mugs on the table. I didn't know you had company, she said. I stepped back so fast I hit the edge of the coffee table. She smiled politely, but there was a question buried in it. Her mother's hand brushed my arm, just once, an instinct, a reassurance, a plea for silence. The contact sent a shock through me. Just a delivery, she said quickly. He was just leaving. I wasn't sure if I was. I didn't sleep that night. The image of her daughter's surprised face stayed with me like a bright flash burned into my eyes. By morning I'd convinced myself it had been a warning, a reality check. But 2 days later I was back at the gallery, and she was standing there, waiting by a painting of a storm-dark sea. I shouldn't have come, she said as soon as she saw me. Her voice was low, urgent. This is your workspace. You came anyway, I said. My hands trembled as I set down the stack of brochures. She moved closer, glancing around at the empty room. She asked me who you were. I told her you were just a delivery boy. It sounded cheap. It's fine, I said, though the word cracked. You don't know me anything. She laughed once sharply. You think I don't? Her eyes were glassy, almost defiant. You've been in my house. You know what's left of my life. I stared at the floor, at the polished wood reflecting both of us. I know about the divorce. I know you're lonely. She flinched. That's not fair. I didn't mean no. She pressed her palm against the wall, steadying herself. It is fair. It's exactly what this is. The gallery's silence thickened around us. Outside, rain streaked the windows. She turned back to me, suddenly closer than before. You make me forget who's supposed to walk away, she whispered. That's the worst part. I swallowed hard. Then tell me to go. Her hand lifted, hovered in the air between us, then fell. I can't, she said. I could feel my pulse in my throat. Last night I stopped myself. Almost what? She asked. I shook my head, but she stepped closer again, eyes searching my face. Say it, she said softly. If you're going to leave, at least tell the truth. I almost kissed you, I said, the words raw. Right there in your living room. Her breath hitched. She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them. I almost let you. We both laughed, but it was a shaky, broken sound. The rain outside grew louder, hammering the windows like applause or warning. Do you know what would happen if my daughter knew? She asked suddenly. If the gallery found out? Her voice rose, then cracked into a whisper. If I knew what I was doing? I stepped forward until I could smell the faint citrus of her perfume. I don't care, I said, and it was true in that moment. She stared at me, trembling, torn between retreat and something else. Her hand lifted again. This time it reached my collar, just a brush of fingertips, as if she needed proof I was real. The door to the gallery creaked. A gust of cold air swept in. Footsteps echoed on the wooden floor behind me. I turned, heart hammering. The footsteps behind me stopped. I turned and saw her daughter standing in the gallery doorway again, rain dripping from her coat. She looked from me to her mother, to the space between us. I didn't know you worked here, she said to me, her voice level but tight. Small town. Her mother moved forward quickly. Sweetheart, I thought you were still at the airport. I took an earlier flight. The daughter's gaze landed on her mother's hand still hovering near my collar, then dropped. You didn't tell me you were seeing someone. We're not, her mother said at once. He's an employee. I had a delivery, then why were you at his place last night? The words hit like a door slamming. I blinked. What? The daughter's expression flickered with something between anger and hurt. I went to return Mom's scarf. I saw your bike outside his building. 2 a.m. She didn't come home till dawn. Her mother's mouth opened but no sound came out. Color rose in her cheeks. It wasn't like that, she said finally, but even she didn't sound convinced. I felt the air go thin. You came to my building? I asked. The daughter crossed her arms. I wanted to know who this guy was she's suddenly talking about. You're younger than me. Does that feel normal to you? I never meant. I started but stopped. Everything inside me went hot and cold at once. Her mother stepped between us, one hand up. Stop. This isn't your business. It is when you lied to me. Her daughter snapped. Dad's barely out of the picture and now this? With someone my age? Her mother's shoulder. We stood there, the two of us, in the echo of her absence. Her mother's hand slid from my arm to her side. She wasn't supposed to find out like that, she whispered. Everything's ruined now. I finally looked at her. Is it? She met my eyes, trembling, like someone who had already stepped off a ledge. I don't know, she said. Tell me it isn't. We didn't move for a long time after the door shut. The rain drummed on the gallery's glass roof, a steady roar that made it feel like we were underwater. She was the first to speak. I have to go after her, she said, but her voice wavered. She's all I have. You still can, I said quietly. You should. She turned to me, eyes red, hair damp where the mist had followed her in. And you? She asked. What are you in all this? A mistake? A moment? I don't know, I admitted. But I know what I feel when I'm with you. And it's not nothing. She pressed a fist to her mouth, as if holding back words. It would be easier if you hated me, she whispered. I don't, I said. I can't. The gallery was empty except for us and the smell of wet coats. Paintings of ships and storms hung all around, their sails tearing in the wind. She walked to one, touched the frame with her fingertips, then turned back to me. I left a marriage because I couldn't breathe anymore, she said. I promised myself I wouldn't build another trap. And yet here I am, standing with someone who could blow up what little family I have left. I never wanted to do that, I said. I just kept showing up. She gave a small, sad laugh. You did. And I kept opening the door. We were only a few feet apart now. The smell of her perfume mixed with rain and paint thinner. My heart was hammering. Tell me to go, I said again. If that's what you need, I'll do it. She stepped closer instead. I don't want to, she said, voice cracking. That's the truth. I don't want you to go. Her hands were trembling. I caught one without thinking, our fingers locking in a grip that was more like clinging than holding. For a heartbeat everything in me leaned forward, desire, guilt, fear, until there was no space between us. She closed her eyes. If we do this, she said, it changes everything. With my daughter. With this town. With you. I know, I said. She opened her eyes. Then choose. Right now. The rain outside softened, as if waiting for an answer. I took a breath, felt the warmth of her palm against mine, and said, I'm not walking away. Not anymore. Her face crumpled, relief and terror in the same expression. She pressed her forehead to mine for a moment, just breathing, both of us shaking. Then, before either of us could move further, the gallery door swung open again. Cold air spilled in. We broke apart, turning toward the sound. The wind from the door curled through the gallery like a ghost. It was only her daughter again, returning for an umbrella she'd forgotten. She paused when she saw us, her eyes flicking from me to her mother. This time, though, no one tried to hide. Her mother straightened, still holding my hand but not clinging. We were just talking, she said quietly. I can see that, her daughter replied. Her tone wasn't angry now, just tired. She stepped forward, grabbed the umbrella from the counter, and hesitated. You could have told me, Mom. You didn't have to sneak around. I was afraid, her mother said, voice low but steady. Afraid of losing you, afraid of looking foolish. I'm still afraid. Something shifted in the daughter's expression. You always told me to go after what I want, she said. Maybe you should take your own advice. She turned to leave, then stopped in the doorway. Just be honest. With yourself, with me. That's all. When she was gone, the gallery felt lighter. Rain still streamed down the glass, but the silence wasn't so sharp anymore. We let go of each other's hands at the same time, almost shyly. She's right, I said. We can't sneak around. I know. Her voice trembled, but there was a small, surprised smile there too. I don't want to. We sat down on a bench facing the storm painting she'd touched earlier. For a long moment we just watched the brushstrokes, dark water, pale sky, a ship caught between. Her shoulder brushed mine, tentative but deliberate. I don't know how this ends, she said finally. I don't know if it's wise. I don't know if we'll make it through the noise of everyone else's opinions. I don't either, I said. But I know we're both standing here anyway. She let out a shaky laugh. That's something. I turned to her. It's a start. She looked back at me, eyes bright with rainlight and something warmer. Then let's start, she said. And this time she didn't pull her hand away when it found mine. We stayed like that as the storm eased outside, not a fairy tale ending, not a scandal, just two people finally honest in a quiet room. The gallery smelled of wet coats and salt and paint, and for the first time I wasn't thinking about how to leave. Sometimes beginnings don't feel like fireworks. They feel like breathing after holding it too long. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?